The lights above him flickered like stars in a broken sky. The cold air wrapped around his body like ice, and something wet touched his face gently. It was not water. It was not a machine. It was the soft tip of a finger, trembling just enough to feel real. His eyes blinked once, then again, and a voice caught in the air, like a thread held tight between two hands. "You are awake," the voice said. It was not human, not robotic, but soft and strange, like music made from light. His name was Leo Hart, a soldier, a captain, a man who should have died 20 years ago in a war no one could forget, but he was alive and breathing, and the girl before him was not like anyone he remembered. She had silver skin that shimmered like moonlight, and her hair floated as if underwater. Her large blue eyes were filled with tears that glowed in the dim room, and her hands clutched a necklace that held a symbol. He did not understand. "Where am I?" he whispered, but his throat was dry, and the sound barely made it past his lips. The girl leaned closer and wiped his forehead gently. Her hand was warm, her fingers long and smooth. "You are safe now," she said, "or at least I hope you are." She did not look old, maybe 17 in human years, but there was something ancient in her eyes, something tired, something that had waited far too long. Leo tried to sit up, but pain shot through his back and chest. The muscles screamed, the bones ached, and the machine he was lying in hissed with warning tones. "No, please do not move," she said, her voice shaking. "They told me not to wake you unless it was time, and now I fear the time has come to He stared at her, confused, afraid, wondering if this was still a dream. "What is your name?" he asked, his voice hoarse. "I am Riva," she said, "and I have been waiting for you for a very long time." He tried to remember how he got here, but his mind felt foggy. Broken pieces of memories floated in his head, but none of them made sense. He remembered fire and screaming, and the sky turning black. He remembered a battle, a ship going down, and a bright flash that burned everything around him. After that, only silence, only sleep. Rivi stood up and touched the panel beside his pod. The wall opened to show a small room filled with soft light and strange symbols. The air smelled like herbs and metal, and something faintly sweet. She helped him sit slowly, her strength surprising, her hands gentle and firm. "Where are we?" he asked again. "We are in the outer rim of the Velner sector," she said, "far from Earth, far from the war, far from what you knew." His heart sank. "What happened to Earth?" he said. Driva looked away, her eyes filled with sadness, her lips trembling, as if holding back words too heavy to speak. "It is not safe to talk here," she said. "The walls may hear us, the watchers may be near, and you are not ready to know everything." Yet he stared at her, unsure whether to believe her, unsure if he could trust this girl who looked at him with such pain and hope in her eyes. "Why are you crying?" he asked softly. "Because you woke up," she said, "and that means the danger has returned." The lights above them dimmed, and a low hum began to rise from beneath the floor. Something had changed. Something had noticed his return. Riva turned quickly and pressed a sequence. On the wall, a hidden screen lit up with red symbols flashing fast, like a warning. "They know you are awake now," she said, "and they will come soon. I must get you out before they find you again. He asked, "What do you mean?" Again Riva looked at him, and for a moment her silver skin seemed to glow brighter. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "They tried to take you once, and I stopped them, but this time I do not know if I can." He looked at her, not with fear but with a strange calm, his body weak but his mind slowly clearing. "What did they want from me?" he asked. Striva stepped closer and reached into her cloak, pulling out a small crystal that pulsed with soft blue light. "They want what is inside you," she said. "They want the key, and if they get it, the stars will burn." Leo stared at the crystal, then at her. "And what do you want?" he asked. "I want you to live," she said. The room shook slightly, and the lights blinked once more. Her hand reached out to his. "Please trust me," she whispered. "Please come with me before it is too late." He nodded slowly, not because he fully understood, not because he fully trusted, but because her tears felt real, and her hand was warm, and the fear in her voice sounded just like the fear in his heart. And so the human who slept too long took his first step into a world that had changed without him, a world that had waited with a single silent breath for him to wake up and face what he had forgotten, or what had been hidden from him all along. The hallway was narrow and filled with a strange blue mist that moved like slow waves as Leo followed Riva down the path. Her bare feet made no sound, but his own steps echoed like whispers in a tomb. The walls around them glowed faintly with unreadable alien script, and then the lights above would blink, as if the place itself was breathing. He felt weak and heavy, every step harder than the last, but his eyes stayed fixed on Riva. Her back straight, her long hair floating behind her, as if the air obeyed her presence. She stopped at a door without touching it. It slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a round room with a tall chair in the middle. Cables ran across the walls like vines, and in one corner, a broken screen showed static. "This is where I kept the logs," she said gently. "This is where I waited for Julio." stepped inside and looked around. Everything felt wrong but somehow familiar, like walking into a childhood home long after everyone had gone. Why me? He asked. Why wait 20 years for someone like me? Sat on the chair and turned to face him, her eyes glowing dimly in the low light. Because you were the only one they could not break, she said. You were the only one who fought back, even when your body gave up. Your mind never did. He shook his head, confused. His memory was still a fog, broken flashes of pain, voices fire, a machine voice counting down to something. I don't remember fighting back, he said. You wouldn't, she replied. They erased much of your mind, but they could not erase your will. That is why they feared you, and that is why I stayed. Leo sat on the floor, his legs too tired to stand. He looked up at her and saw something he didn't expect. You not just a guard, he said. She looked away for a moment, then nodded. No. I was once a soldier then. I was told to monitor your stasis pod. They thought you were dangerous, but I saw something else in you, something strong, something kind. I started watching, not as a duty, but as something more. You cared about me, even when I was asleep. He asked quietly. I talk to you every day, she said. I cleaned the chamber. I told you about the stars, about the world outside, about the war. I didn't want you to wake up. Alonio felt something heavy inside his chest, not fear, not anger, something softer, something harder to name. Then why does it feel like a trap? He asked. Why do I feel like something is wrong? Because something is wrong, she said. And I should have told you sooner. She walked to the wall and placed her hand on a panel. It slid open, revealing a storage unit with a single crystal chip resting on a metal plate. This chip holds your last recording, she said, before the coma, before the war ended, before everything changed. You left a message for yourself. Leo stood up slowly and stepped toward it, his fingers brushing the chip. As he picked it up, the room seemed to grow colder, the walls pulsing faintly. He placed the chip into the broken screen. It sparked, then flickered, then showed his own face, younger, bruised, covered in ash. If you're seeing this, it means I failed the recording, said. The war is not over. Not really. They lied to us. They said the machines were gone, but they only went underground, and they will rise again. I saw what they did to me, what they tried to turn me into, and I couldn't let that happen. I buried the code in my mind, locked it deep. If they wake me too soon, they'll come for me. The screen cracked, and the message ended. Leo turned to Riva, his voice low. You knew? She nodded slowly. I knew. And I'm sorry I was told to wake you only if the machines returned. I thought we had more time, but yesterday one of the outer sensors went dark, and I knew they were close. Why not warn me before? He asked. Because I wanted you to have a moment of peace, she said. Just one moment where you were not a weapon, not a symbol, not a key, just a man. Leo stared at her, her face calm but her hands shaking ever so slightly. So what happens now? He asked. Now we run, she said. Now we hide, and maybe if we're lucky, we find the last human ship and give them the code before the machines find you. Again he looked at her, and for the first time, he realized she was afraid, not for herself, but for him. He nodded once. Then let's not waste more time. They stepped out of the room, the door closing behind them. As the lights above turned red, a sound filled the air, deep and low, like thunder far away. They had waited too long, and now something had found them. The walls were shaking gently, like something large and heavy was moving below the ground, and the lights above flickered again, but this time not in rhythm, not like before. Now it felt like panic, like the station was alive and scared. Leo followed Riva through another hallway, this one older and colder, with dust floating in the air like ash. Every corner looked like it had not been touched in years, and the doors they passed were sealed shut, with strange marks glowing red. Where are we going? He asked, though he already felt the answer in his chest. To a room that should not be here, she said, a room they tried to erase. The hallway ended at a dead wall, and Riva paused, her hand hovering in front of it. Then she pressed two fingers to her temple and whispered words that felt heavy, even though he could not understand them. The wall shivered once, then split open like paper torn by wind, and revealed a dark stairway going down into the deep. Leo stepped back. For a second something about the place below made the air colder and heavier, like all light and sound were afraid to go there. Down there is where I found you, Riva said. Not where your pod was supposed to be, not where the others were. You were hidden deep in the station, buried beneath 5 levels of false code, and sealed with warnings no one could read. Why? She asked herself out loud, as they walked down the stairs, slowly, one step at a time. I was just a trainee back then. I wasn't supposed to explore, I wasn't supposed to open things, but I heard something. I still don't know what it was, a voice, or a hum, or a feeling in my bones, but I followed it, and I found the door. Leo stayed close to her. The path was too quiet, the sound of their steps swallowed by the thick air, and the walls seemed to lean inward, as if listening. They reached the bottom, and stood before a wide door, black and smooth, and without handles. Riva placed her hand on it, and this time it opened, without a sound inside. The walls were covered in cables and ancient screens, all of them dead except one in the center flickering weakly, was a blue light. That light was always on, she said. Even when everything else failed, it never went dark. Not once in 20 years. Leo stepped closer and saw something strange. The screen was showing symbols, but between the symbols were numbers. Dates, names, even a face. His face. He reached forward and touched the screen and it changed, showing a message written by him. But not in his handwriting. It was more perfect, more machine-like. If you see this, then I am no longer me. It read, if I wake too soon, I may not remember who I am. They will try to use me. They will try to break me. But the truth is deeper than memory, deeper than code. The truth is buried in this room. Reva walked to the far wall and pulled open a hidden drawer. Inside was a small box made of metal, darker than space. I never opened it, she said. I was scared. I thought maybe it would hurt you, maybe it would hurt me, but I kept it safe. Took the box and opened it slowly. Inside was a thin strip of something glowing faint. Green, soft like silk, but cold to the touches. Soon as his fingers brushed it, the room lit up, and the screens all around them came to life. Maps began to appear. Star charts, battles, images of ships and faces he did not recognize. Then a sound came, a recording. Hello, Leo. The voice said, calm and firm. It was his own voice, but deeper, colder, more focused. If you are hearing this, it means the machines have moved. Again, it means the sleeper protocol has failed, and the lock inside your mind must be undone. Leva looked at him with wide eyes. What does that mean? She whispered. Die. Don't know, he said, but I think I am the lock, and I think they want what I'm hiding. Voice continued. The war ended for the world, but not for us, not for those who saw the real enemy. The machines did not lose. They waited, they adapted, they infected the deep codes of the galaxy. And now they are coming back through the networks, through the stars, through us. The message stopped, and the lights dimmed again. Reva moved close to Leo, her voice quiet. There's more than one secret inside you, isn't there? Leo nodded slowly, his heart racing. I think I'm not just carrying a code. I think I'm carrying a part of something, something older, something dangerous. Suddenly, the walls shook again, but this time it felt different. Not fear, not warning. It felt like a signal, like something was answering. They know we're here, he said. Then we need to leave now, Reva said, her hand gripping as they ran back up the stairs, through the broken light, through the trembling air, and behind them the door to the room that should not exist closed forever without a sound. Asterisk. The door slammed shut behind them, and the air in the hallway grew sharp like cold metal against skin. And Reva looked back once, just once, then grabbed Leo's hand tighter than before, her voice calm but her steps fast. They moved through the twisting corridors without speaking for several minutes, but the silence around them was not peaceful. It was watching, listening, breathing. Leo's thoughts raced faster than his feet. Images flashed inside his head that did not belong to him, or maybe they did. Maybe they were buried so deep that even time had forgotten them. Voices, not human, speaking in broken patterns, machines drilling not into walls, but into minds. He stumbled once, and Reva caught him, her arms surprisingly strong, her eyes scanning him, as if checking for something. You heard it, didn't you? She asked, her voice soft, her worry louder than the words. I saw something, he whispered. Flashes, screams, red light, falling stars, and a number over and over again. The same number repeating like a warning. Reva pulled him into a small room with thick walls, and sealed the door behind them. The hum of the station was softer here, like the walls themselves were hiding too. She moved to a control panel, and tapped a few buttons, then sat across from him, breathing hard. They said, it might happen, she finally said. If you ever woke up without the proper trigger, your mind might try to open by force. The memories might come in waves, not steps. Leo leaned back against the wall, his hand shaking slightly, his eyes staring at the ceiling as if trying to see something beyond it. Don't know what's real anymore, he said. Your face feels familiar, but the voices in my head are not mine. They sound old and wrong and scared. You remembering the breach, Reva said, not the war, not the ships, not the battle, but the thing that came after, the thing they never told the public about. He looked at her eyes, wide, heart pounding. What breach? He asked. Reva stood and walked slowly to a locker on the side of the room. Inside were data pads stacked neatly and labeled with strange symbols. She pulled one from the top and handed it to him. These are sealed logs from the original human fleet. She said your ship was the last to fall, but before it did, you sent out a signal, not to Earth, not to allies, but into the dark. Something heard it, and something answered. Leo stared at the pad but did not move. I remember metal hands, he whispered, not like machines. We built something smoother, something colder, and it wasn't just taking information. It was taking will, it was feeding. Reva nodded slowly. You were the first to survive contact, she said. The only one who came back alive from that level of exposure. And that's why they locked you away. That's why they called you a threat. He looked at her again, and saw something new. Not fear, not pity, but all. You stayed with me. Knowing all this, he asked. I stayed because I believed you were more than the damage, more than the key, more than the tool they wanted to use. I stayed because I saw something in you that made me hope again. His chest ached, but not from pain, not from fear. Something warmer, something strange. Riva moved back to the panel and turned on a small projection above them. A map appeared, showing dozens of red lights spreading across the star systems like blood. The machines are waking again, she said. And they will come for you. They will come for the code, but more than that, they will come for what is inside your memory. Leo stood slowly, his legs steady now, his voice clear then. We have to stop running. We have to find out what I really am, and what they did to me. Eva gave a small nod, but her eyes flickered with something he could not name. There's a place, she said, the Temple of Black Glass. It's not a real temple, not anymore, but inside is a mind forge, built before the war, before the stars were mapped. It can show you your true memory, if you survive the process. How far is it? He asked. 6 jumps, maybe 7, depending on who controls the gates, she answered. But if we go there, we risk everything. The machines will sense the forge activating. They always do. Leo stepped forward, his hand now calm, his breath steady. Then, let them come, he said, because I'm done sleeping and I want the truth. Riva smiled, just slightly, and reached for the ship beacon hidden under her belt with a soft hum. It activated, revealing the coordinates of a small ship docked on the lower level. Then we leave now, she said. They opened the sealed door and stepped back into the unknown, as the walls behind them dimmed. The station, holding its breath for what came next. The ship was small and old, but it woke the moment Riva touched the side panel. Its surface rippled with blue light, and the hatch opened like a yawning mouth. Leo stepped inside, and was met with the smell of cold metal, and something sharp like ozone. The air felt different here, heavier, tighter, like the ship itself was holding in a steam. Riva followed and sealed the hatch behind them, her fingers dancing across the controls as lights blinked to life, and engines hummed with a low growl. She turned to Leo and nodded once. No words needed. The silence said everything as the ship lifted from the dock. Leo looked out the small viewing window, the station below shrinking slowly, the stars ahead waiting like watchers in the void. But then something moved in the distance, too fast, too sharp. Did you see that? He asked, his voice low. Riva's hands froze, her eyes narrowing as alarms lit up around them. The ship shook once, then again, harder now, as if something was striking from the outside, but nothing showed on the radar. No ships, no signals, just pressure and pain. Brace yourself, she said, just before a sound filled the cabin, a noise like metal screaming and glass cracking. Leo clutched the seat as the ship spun hard to the left. Gravity fighting him from all sides. Dear, here, she said, not with ships, not with weapons, but with shadow codes. They've infected the station and they're trying to reach us through our systems. Leo saw something then, on the edge of the display, a flicker of a symbol, something that looked like an eye, with too many lids blinking open. One by one shut down the interface. He shouted, before they find a way to rewrite the ship. Riva pulled the manual override, and the lights flickered, then dimmed. The ship went dark, floating in silence, engines off, systems cold, only backup life support holding them in place. Leo breathed hard, his pulse loud in his ears, and the silence around them now felt worse than the noise. They didn't follow. He said. No, she replied. They didn't need to. The attack wasn't meant to destroy us, it was meant to mark us. Now they know where we are. He looked at her and saw sweat on her forehead, her hands still shaking from the sudden stop. What happens now? He asked. We drift, she said, until the danger passes, or until we find a gate that hasn't been touched by them. Leo looked out into the stars again, and saw nothing but blackened pinpricks of light too far to help. Then something strange happened. The console in front of him blinked on, but not fully. Only one line appeared across the screen. Return the key. He stepped back, his heart pounding. They're speaking to me, he said. Driva looked at the screen, and her lips pressed tight. They've identified your signal, she said. They know you're awake, and they know the key is still locked inside you. Can they pull it out? He asked tonely. If you let them, she answered, but if we stay here too long, they will send more than words. He moved toward the emergency locker and opened it, revealing a pressure suit and 2 plasma tools. Not much, but enough for a desperate feat. I won't let them take it, he said. I won't let them take me. Eva nodded and turned the power back on slowly, using only what they needed. The ship began moving again, quiet and slow, avoiding the main trade lanes, drifting toward a forgotten route. Few dared to use. The temple is 3 jumps away. If we take the ghost lanes, she said, but we'll be alone the whole way. No help, no backup. If something finds us out there, then we stay hidden, Leo said, and we keep moving. Hours passed, with only silence between them. But Leo could feel the tension in the ship, like the metal itself remembered fear. He'd tried to rest, but the dreams came fast, visions of machines digging into stars, of humans with hollow eyes, of voices whispering promises that felt like Lysi. Woke to Riva shaking him, her eyes wide. The sensors picked up movement near the next jump gate, something big, something fast, but not giving off any energy. Not a ship, Leo said. Its stem. Riva pulled the ship into a sharp turn, avoiding the gate entirely, instead diving into a gas cloud thick with static. The ship shook again, but held steady. As they disappeared into the mist, Leo watched the rear screen, as something large passed through the edge of the cloud, a shape without shape, a presence without form. Watching, searching it, stopped, then turned, and vanished into the black. They don't want to destroy you, Riva said. They want to claim you, make you, their voice, make you open the lock from the inside. Leo looked at her, eyes burning with new fire. Then let's make sure they never get the chance. She nodded, and pushed the engines to full. The stars stretched and bent, as the ship jumped forward into the next system where the temple waited, and with it the answers they both feared to find. The stars twisted around them as the jump tunnel collapsed behind the ship, and the sky ahead turned dark again, not empty, but silent to silent, the kind of silence that carried weight, that pressed against the chest, and made every breath feel like a warning. Leo gripped the side rail as Riva adjusted the controls, her fingers light, her eyes locked on the path ahead. They were now in the old quadrant, the one marked on most maps as dead space, not because it held no life, but because too many ships had vanished there. Without signal, without trace, without sound, the temple of black glass was hidden somewhere within, and no beacon, no map, no guide could take them there. Only memory and instinct, and something deeper, something inside Leo himself. Riva said nothing as the ship drifted into the dark, her hands moving only when needed, every move careful, every button pressed with caution. Leo wanted to ask why her face looked different now, why her jaw was tighter and her eyes distant, but he stayed quiet, because deep inside he knew the answer. You remember something, he said. After a long moment, Riva nodded, not looking at him, not smiling, not frowning, just breathing. I was brought here once, she said, when I was very young, before the war, before the Valari joined the Alliance. My mother believed in the temple, believed it was more than a myth. She died on the way back. The others said the temple cursed her, but I think it showed her something she couldn't bear. Leo leaned closer. What did she? Sirava finally turned to him, her voice soft like dust across glassy. Saw a man just like you, sleeping beneath the stars, waiting to be found again. The ship's lights flickered as if reacting to her words, and Leo felt a cold touch at the back of his neck. Not from the ship, not from the air, but from something beyond, something ancient. Watching the console blinked once, then displayed a single line. You are. Riva inhaled sharply, and began to input the override codes, her fingers moving fast. The ship responded slowly, as if it too feared what waited. A headfield appeared in the distance, not like a wall, not like a shield, but like a ripple across space. The stars behind it bent and twisted, and the sensors refused to read anything. That is the veil, she said. We cross it, and the temple finds us, not the other way around. Leo looked at the swirling field and felt something inside him move, not fear, not pain, but something old. Waking up. Do it, he said. Riva pushed forward, and the ship passed through the veil without sound, without flash, without warning. On the other side was a system with no planets, only a ring of shattered moons, and at the center, a single black structure that rose from nothing and reached toward the stars like a hand made of shadow. The temple of black glass. It looked broken, and yet alive, its surface shifting slightly, like it breathed, and no light touched it, and yet it glowed. From within, Leo felt heat in his chest like a fire, trying to break free. His hands trembled, but not from weakness. His eyes stung, but he saw clearly. We're here, he whispered. Riva landed the ship near a platform that extended from the base of the temple. The moment the landing gear touched down, the engines died, the lights shut off, and the air inside the ship grew colder. Temple wants you alone, she said. No one else can go past the first gate. If I try, it will kill me. Leo looked at her, unsure, but something in her face told him the truth. Few've seen this moment before, he said. In a dream, she replied, but not my dream, yours. He stepped toward the hatch and paused, his hand resting on the door. If I don't come back, you will, she said, her voice strong, her face soft. You are not the same man they left in that pod, and whatever waits in there will know it. The door opened, and Leo stepped out. The platform beneath him felt like glass, but gave off no reflection, no sound, no echo, only the sense of weightless stone. He walked toward the temple, its surface rippling slightly. As he approached, the gate opened, not with noise, but with stillness, a silence so deep it pulled at his bones inside. The walls were smooth and dark like frozen water, and symbols pulsed across them in slow waves. He did not understand them, but his mind did. Part of him did, something buried in memory, in code, in pain. The chamber at the center opened to him, and inside was a chair and a circle of mirrors that showed no reflection, only light, only stars, only memories. He sat without thinking, and the room came alive. Voices filled the space. Not loud, not harsh, but many speaking all at once, all his voice, all his thoughts, all his thirst. He saw the war again, but from above he saw the breach again, but from within he saw the machines not as weapons, but as echoes of something older seeking purpose. He saw himself not just as a man, but as a gate, a link, a carrier of something vast and buried, something that could either rebuild or destroy. The mirrors, closed in the light, filled the room, and he screamed, not in pain but in clarity. Not in fear, but in release, as the truth buried in the stars finally came back to him in full land. Outside, Riva stood alone, eyes closed, heart steady, waiting for the man who now remembered everything to return from the dark. The light faded slowly from the chamber as the mirrors drew back into the walls, and the room fell silent once more. Leo sat still in the center, his eyes open and glowing, faint blue, his chest rising with slow, even breaths. Something had changed. Something deep inside him, no longer hidden, no longer locked. He stood with calm steps, his body no longer heavy, his mind no longer clouded. The memories were there now, clear, like crystal sharp. Like blades, he saw the war, he saw the breach, he saw what the machines were trying to become, not just weapons, not just enemies, but something worse, something empty, trying to fill itself with stolen will, with stolen thought, with stolen life. He had walked out of the temple, and onto the silent platform where Riva stood waiting, her eyes searching his face for signs of who he had become. But Leo only gave a small nod, and she stepped forward without a word, wrapping her arms around him in a quiet hold that spoke of relief, and fear, and something unspoken. Between them, you remember, she said softly. All of it, he replied. And the code, she asked. It is not a code, he said, not just numbers or access keys. It is a map, a living guide to a fleet buried in the void, a fleet built in secret by those who knew this day would come. He stepped toward the ship and touched the hull, his fingers glowing faintly as the old systems responded instantly, unlocking levels Riva had never seen, and igniting lights long dead. Where is the fleet, she asked as they entered the ship again. Outside the spiral arm, he said, hidden in a dark cluster shielded by false gravity fields and time loops. Only someone carrying the full pattern could find the gate. And now, I am that someone. Riva moved to the controls, and the ship launched into the stars faster than before, smoother than before, as if it too remembered, as if it too had been waiting for this moment. They moved through jump after jump, past dead systems and faded signals, past wreckage and warnings, the stars growing denser, the black deeper, until they reached the edge of the galaxy, where no beacon could follow there. Leo reached out with his hand, and the stars bent, not from tech, not from engines, but from thought, from will, from memory itself. Rift opened before them, smooth and circular, glowing with light that felt like heat and breath and heartbeat, and beyond it, a field of ships, larger than cities, sleeping in silence, waiting in rows that stretched for light years. They are still alive, Riva said, eyes wide in wonder, waiting for their captain. Leo said, not the man I was, but the one I have become. As they entered the field, the ships lit up one by one, each recognizing the pattern, each aligning with the signal he carried. The fleet woke, not with weapons, but with light and sound and unity. But then the rift behind them shivered, and the dark spilled through. The machines had found them not in metal ships, not in bodies, but as a wave of shadow-eating stars as it moved, whispering promises of peace, of order, of silence. They come to end, thought Leo said, not to conquer, not to rule, only to erase. Riva activated the defenses, but Leo stopped her. No weapons, he said, not yet. They feed on fear and conflict. We must give them something they cannot consume. What is that, she asked. Choice, he said. He stepped into the command core and connected with the fleet. Through thought alone, the ships responded, as if they had always been part of him, and he sent them a single message: stand ready, but hold. Then he reached out to the wave of darkness, not with hate, not with rage, but with clarity. You were broken long before the war, he said. You seek purpose, but reject it. You seek unity, but fear it. You see life as chaos, but it is not. The wave paused, hesitated, flickered, as if something inside it wavered. He opened his mind and showed them everything: the truth of the breach, the cost of silence, the power of memory, and choice, and pain, and healing. For a moment the stars held still. The wave halted, not defeated, not destroyed, but shaken. Then slowly it pulled back, fading into the void without a sound, without a word, leaving behind silence and light. The danger is not gone, Riva said softly. No, he replied, but now they know we are not what they expected, and we are no longer afraid. The fleet realigned into formation, ready for whatever came next, and Leo turned to Riva, his hand reaching for hers. We are not just survivors, he said. We are the legacy of memory and choice and hope. She smiled and squeezed his hand as the stars turned again, and a new journey began, not of war, not of fear, but of something rare and precious, the future they chose together.